doing that, but we're already jumping into the next matchup here. Karma and Hogman, of course, the Call of Duty three-ring legend versing off against Kenneth and Parallax, of course, absolutely dominating Avery and Hysteria for their round one matchup. So let's go ahead and see, where's everybody dropping here, Taylor?
Yeah, I'm excited to see Karma once again. In the last tournament, we played with Gotaga, but Karma had a great performance overall. I think he was averaging at least well over 6-7 kills per game that we saw him play, so I expect a lot out of him. Kenneth and Parallax, they're going to continue on with that success that they had in the previous round. They land just outside of Salty, and we could probably see or expect to see the same rotations out of them, whereas Karma, Hogman, they're just going to be going straight to the desert right outside of that racetrack area. But they got to be careful. There's not a lot of mats over there they can farm. And on top of that, pushing into racetrack could be a very volatile area because look around them. Plenty of hilltops, plenty of wide open spaces to get sniped.
And one thing that I'm really excited about here for Karma this week, I know obviously played with Gotaga last tournament. One issue for them was the factor of them being in their very first Friday Fortnite. They really weren't sure which places to run toward. I think they went back-to-back retail row, which in, prior history isn't the best of overall strategies. Kind of the passive play in prior weeks to Friday Fortnite is by far the way to go. But now playing alongside Hogman, who I believe has at least played an 8 or 9 of our overall 10 weeks that we've had, is coming into this with a lot of veteranship. I know he hasn't played with some of the, most top players in the
Roman
world.
Atwood was his previous.
Roman Atwood has also played with Fuzi, a lot of other guys along that nature. Has had, a decent tournament when he played alongside 72 Hours, finished second overall, I think in week number 6 or 7. So this guy has a lot of experience, going to definitely kind of provide that when it comes into playing with Karma. And we were talking about it. This team could absolutely be a sleeper when it comes down to this tournament. Unfortunately for them, though, they could be trying to make a sleeper overall run throughout the losers bracket because this Hunter T team is absolutely unreal. They're going to be very, very difficult to face off against.
Definitely so. As to see Karma, he's going to be going in for a hot chop along with Hogman through that little rift there to try and get a vantage point above the competition. Already Karma is engaging. He knocks one player, gets some shield off the other straight ahead. As Hogman, he's already pushing up. He's very aggressive at this point in a shotgun battle. The player just in front of him, great defensive building. He gets to knock another player bouncing off those tires, trying to come in like a soaring eagle, and he's going to get eliminated as well. Great overall team battle there to pick up some nice kills to continue their way, at least kind of try and keep up with Kenneth and Parallax.
And we've been talking about this racetrack upgrade, guys. There's actually some loot over there, not just one chest. Of course, we see those tires, which is why you saw that little bounce fest over there. Everybody's wearing flubber shoes, just trying to make their way across the map. But, I mean, we've seen a lot of new additions, of course. Racetrack being one of my personal favorites. This is by force. I don't know if you guys play this way, but based off of wins, if somebody picks the right spot, you get a victory off if they get a pick again. Unfortunately, we always lost landing here in racetrack. So, unfortunately, we'd be forced to land here when it was James's pick. So, just want to throw that out there, James, if you're watching. Now you can pick racetrack, and we won't judge you for this being your positioning.
Probably why you guys lost, if I had to guess, because you would always land and you would always try and get kills, but then again, you would see a golf cart and immediately start racing
there just weren't
around
kills, Taylor. It was all about having a toothpick to fight your way out with as soon as you left racetrack.
I was hoping Karma and Hogman were going to use the cart to hop inside the rift, but they didn't. Oh, that would have been perfect. We've been talking about that the entirety of game number 1. We're like, oh my gosh, if somebody does it, it's going to be amazing, and they have the opportunity. And did they let it slip? But how? They're going to be making their way, of course, going racetrack, using the rift and rocking their way over toward Paradise Parks. Guaranteed eliminations here, gentlemen. We'll see if they can try to get more on the board as they're already up to 4 off the start here.
Now, this apartment side of the map is interesting because you have so many levels to kind of sort through. And, one of my experiences of playing PUBG back in the day, right, was landing in a lot of those multi-level apartments actually for looting. Usually wasn't the best idea just because you had so many layers you had to go through. Beauty of this game, you can just cut right through that sucker from top to bottom, just make your way from top to bottom, and then, of course, pick up all those goods. And, of course, Hotel 33, it's got some decent loot in there. And, of course, that pool actually has a chest hidden that little cabana entrance over there. So that's where I like to land.
Yeah, I was hitting the pool quite a bit, and I was like, wow, there is so much loot over here. Like, it's actually kind of unreal where a lot of the chests that could be when you don't really check it a lot of the time. Little nooks and crannies around the new locations.
Speaking of which, you got, 7 kills at one point right next to the pool.
I'm not trying to gloat or anything along those lines, if I can even speak. But, hey, it did happen. So, maybe I'm trading out being a commentator for pro player.
Would you sign my Microsoft soon?
I will.
Before the end of the
night? I will even sign the bottom of your shoes as well. So.
Okay. Like
Toy
Story? Like Andy from Toy Story?
I can even sign Andy if you want to.
Yeah. Sid was scary.
He was a creepy kid.
Scary portion of Toy Story. But 8 kills now out of Karma and Hogman. Kenneth Parallax still 3. But, of course, we saw that retail drop for them, obviously making their way towards Dusty. And it seems like they might have actually did they split up here?
Well, so they went salty, and it does, in fact, look like they're splitting up. Kenneth, he's going to go ahead and head over towards retail. Well, we have Parallax. He's heading at next to Dusty Divot, which is a very interesting place now. It's like
now
a forest
yeah.
at that point. So, which I loved. I love the fact that we've seen it kind of progress over time, especially if you've been playing from season 2 and onward, or even season 1. I've been playing since season 2, but to see it from not being a divot at all to being a divot with no life whatsoever to now there's just an abundance of forest there, which no mushrooms over there. I don't think
There's actually a couple mushrooms.
Is
down
there
there.
a couple mushrooms
Yeah,
over there? But they got rid of the
out of desperation
crystals.
last night. They did. There's no more pop rocks,
Yeah.
no more crystals there for you to use. Unfortunately, no more candy to mix with your Pepsi and have a super explosion in your mouth. And, of course, Kenneth now in a shady gunfight here. Of course, the build expert making his way out. And I don't even know what he's doing at this point. Taylor, it just seems like he's wizarding his way through these little holes, and of course manages to get an advantage. And one of the things that we're seeing a lot in these gunfights, for some reason, at least today, from Kenneth the Parallax, is not a lot of height advantage. Just a lot of building from this kind of one by ones, maybe two, 3 levels, just trying to stay alive. And I find his playstyle in that way extremely interesting. So good thing his teammate coming to the rescue as well. Parallax dominating, gives some assistance to Kenneth.
Yeah, definitely so. They're starting to heat up a little bit. Still, though, no kills for Parallax himself. We're going to see 4 for Kenneth. That's going to be 4 to the score of 8 on the right side.
That was such a smart strategy. Apologies to cut you off there, Taylor. Parallax literally saw his setup right in front of him, bounced the grenade launcher off the ground, allowing it to drop right in that player setup. After it exploded, it immediately went for a few shots. No one was in there at the time, but I just love really quick little transition plays like that we have from our pros who are grinding the game all the time.
Yeah, this game is all about angles, too. And that's really, I guess, any shooting game in general. It's all about the angles that you choose. And, bouncing things off the ground and stuff like that. I mean, that's obviously the genius that comes from a lot of these players. And he even bounces another one in over there and picks up that elimination. He's going to now be sitting at 1-5 on top for 6. So they're slowly starting to catch up to coRMA and Hogman, who are now going to be at Salty Springs, which was just cleared out earlier from Kenneth and Parallax. So nobody may be home just yet. We do see a little bit of storm action from Kenneth and Parallax. And speaking of the Storm Boys, we had a little update to where storms, at least the Circle 7, 8, and 9, will in fact be spawning outside. So we'll have to see a lot of rotations. Of course, that's to combat at least when we see competitive play, building of those 1x1s or those massive buildings towards the end.
Yeah, that's just another credit toward Epic Games for, of course, kind of listening and obviously trying to watch, especially professional players, and say, hey, like, where can we kind of make little tweaks to our game? Where can we really kind of realize the issues with it and try to base it, for, futureness of our title? And a lot of times, whenever developers happen to kind of make it more of a competitive aspect for the pro players who are grinding it out each and every day, it also turns out to be a very solid experience for the random pub player as well. So just another props to Epic Games for continually trying to update their game and realizing that, hey, the end of the game obviously was a little bit of an issue. A lot of camping was going down, not even just in pro level games and squads, duos, etc., but also in a random public games a lot where you'd have kind of a slow stalemate match. And now from here, it's not exactly about that. It's going to be about the rotations and overall being wary of future situations around the map.
And if you guys have been playing squads at all, when you come down to that kind of last squad versus squad, let's say you get in a full 4v4, it's actually extremely fun because everybody's kind of this forced aggression kind of kicks in where you've actually got to push and play. And one of the things that I love so much actually about the double pump not being in the game, although it's so much fun to use, right? It was so much fun to use, but I like it because I get to see guns like the grenade launcher kind of coming back. You started to see some of these pro players, and pretty much everybody in general just would stop using, because they wanted to have the inventory. They would stop using a lot of explodes, a lot of nades, a lot of secondary ARs. You're starting to see those grenade launchers back into play, which obviously I believe you're limited to 18 now capacity total for explodes. At least I was last night. Maybe it was just glitching and not letting me pick it up. But I could only get 18 when I was sitting over rockets and hovering, so it cannot hold anymore. So they've actually limited explodes as well, obviously taking away that double pump. So, when you get to these final circles, it's either going to be a lot of explosions or you're just going to see a lot of builds across, hoping that, or maybe one guy. What I want to see is just one guy just trying to medkit while the circle's closing in, and just waiting for it and see if he can't just outlast that way.
That'd actually be very interesting, right? The circle moves out, and then he's just sitting in the new circle, just medkitting. I don't know if you'd get away with that at Circle 7, 8, and 9, but I'm sure they'll find a way. 3 campfires down on top of that medkit and a slurp juice that has been drank. So with that being said, Kenneth the
Triple
Parallax, triple slurp. actually going down. Kenneth and Parallax will, in fact, find a team. And I was kind of worried about them because they were really far back from that circle, and they had a lot of ground to cover, where coRMA and Hogman, they were kind of just playing that gatekeeper role right on the outside of Dusty. I was expecting them to find at least a lot of the engagement still remaining, but Kenneth and Parallax, luckily, will, in fact, head over to Fatal, just next to at least where Karma's located at, but they're going to find those engagements and pick up those kills. So they're sitting at 9 to the score of 8, so they've managed to overtake the lead over KarMA and Hogman. And we don't have, well, at least actually we have more than we've seen at least in the previous game. We're sitting at 23, or excuse me, how many? No, 19 total engagements still. So, scores could at least fluctuate drastically at this point, but Kenneth and Parallax, those rotations seem to be very knowledgeable as they do take the lead once again, as look like they're making yet again another push, a bounce trap just in front, or bouncer pad in front of them. They're going to try to get that high ground, see who is lurking in the shadows.
Oh, that's great play actually from the Hunter T guys, being super wary of the map, realizing the bounce pad was actually in play, and they actually used that along with a few other items to try to actually steal a few kills just out from under KarMA. Like I said, playing that gatekeeper role, it looks like nice shots coming in from Parallax, also sitting in the storm. And I believe along with that, Hogman happens to find a rift at the exact same time KarMA has actually been dropped inside of the storm. I'm not sure if it's going to be possible for Hogman to go for the res or anything along those lines, but that's going to be a huge issue heading into game number 2. We talked about how close this one could be. Only a 1 elimination game coming into this previous fight. Now in a 1v2 for the rest of the match, you could argue most of these are probably going to go to Hunter T now.
Yeah, they definitely might. It looks like Hogman, though, still is finding players, and he is within that circle, so trying to use that bouncer trap, kind of whiffing a little bit, but that's going to be all right. Comes above that player, tries to shoot him, misses a couple of shots, but he will, in fact, get the knock plus the elim, as, of course, that was only a knock. Where's the last remaining players remaining? It looks like they're, in fact, going to be just behind it, building up, trying to get that defensive building, but there's a player just in his 1-by-1.
Oh!
Trap.
Hogman
is going to pick off that player, and he's going to be rewarded there with the purple scar, but still, being engaged from the outside, he's got to be careful, but that was a top-level play. But look at Parallax. He's going to be down himself within the storm. He will have no chance of getting up. We have a 1v1.
Hogman just said, "That's nice, buddy. That was season 4. This is season 5. It's a totally different game," and he absolutely destroys that Omega. Oh my gosh, that was absolutely unreal play. And he's keeping this up. Close quarter situation. Finds the scar off the ground, and the hipfire shots are without question hitting home now. Trying to enter inside of that build, having that door, but of course the window of success could quickly start to be closing as he's realizing he's such on the edge. So little resources, not a whole lot of time, going for the rush and trying to take down anyone he possibly can, but a fantastic run will unfortunately be stopped. 10 eliminations coming through from Hogman, but Legion, what a display that we saw from him in those final moments.
If you're watching at home, obviously, you say, oh, man, all he did was set some traps. But you got to think of the pressure that's on the line here. You got round 2. You're going against Kenneth. You're playing with the legend as KarMA is. I mean, esports in general. And then you've got Parallax as well on the other team here for 100 Thieves. I mean, you've got a lot on the line, a lot of money on the line. Obviously, this is game 1. You're trying to get as many kills, as many eliminations, rather, as you possibly can. And he manages to drop down 2, stays alive, doesn't choke. You have to understand, he was on ramp at that point, turns over, sets down those traps, manages to kill him, and then I believe he kills 2 more. I believe he eliminates 2 more players and still almost gets out of that situation. But, of course, going back to Kenneth here, he's got a pretty easy 5 engagements remaining, all tied up. Hogman, great job trying to keep the matchup close here before you had to go into game 2.
Yeah, staying calm under pressure is a necessity, especially when you start playing against these top-level teams, top-level players. And being a top-level player yourself, you have to be calm under pressure, learn how to prioritize your engagements, and prioritize really your builds overall. But Kenneth, he's going to be last up, just trying to continue that lead. We saw they were all tied up. Now he's going to try and get a lead going into round number 2. But he's got a decent builder that he's going to be going against as he does get that high ground shooting, raining down bullets just below. As you see that, I love the addition to see how many pellets that you're hitting overall. It's such a good one, at least to gauge how your accuracy is doing overall. I usually have at least 1 pellet in my target hit marker there. But great job getting up on that high ground, spots the player, and still building over him yet again, placing the trap down. As this player is getting away, we do see a stink bomb come into play. He's got to get out. Great build, and unfortunately, he's not going to be able to get that floor down. He's going to go down, and I believe we're going into game number 2 with the tied game.
Jeez, that was an unreal finish. And one thing that I really want to point out, and Kenneth's kind of final build fight, a lot of people on Reddit, a lot of people, when it comes down to, are saying, hey, judge my builds, judge how I play the game when it comes into being in certain situations. One thing that Kenneth was always doing in the situation was making sure that in any situation, he always had the high ground. There was a few times where he ended up dropping, but always was super aware, hey, do I need to build up an extra 1x1? Do I need to make myself a level higher to just ensure that I'm not going to be falling in that certain spot? Of course, doesn't end up getting taken down at the end of that fight because there's multiple players around him. But that's just another credit that we can give to Kenneth. Like I said, whenever Playground was first introduced, we got to watch TSM versus Liquid, Liquid versus FaZe, all these pro-level teams facing off against each other. Kenneth was right there, taking a lot of players down that had a lot of respect, especially coming from Friday Fortnite. And he was kind of a guy who was known, but not really coming into overall Fortnite as a title, was expected to be a top player. So him performing the way that he has, especially in this tournament now, just goes to go. He has a lot of credit as a top player regarding the future of Fortnite. And like I said, in that particular series, in that particular moment especially, he's just giving even more credit to himself as a top-level player along with a top-level builder, one of the best in the world.
I just love that when he was getting built up on, obviously you mentioned that he just was trying to continue to get that high ground, but something else that he was doing is he was setting a floor down on purpose on the guy's ramp to make sure that he had a way to edit through and potentially kill him. Unfortunately, he was getting shot at from what felt like 5 different angles. Pretty much the remaining squad was shooting at him at all points, and obviously he ended up falling to Tim damage there, unfortunately, at the end and taking it. But hey, listen, not always can you grapple onto the walls with the floor to try to stay alive. But
that is true.
Still some incredible building out of there, and then obviously sometimes you just get shot out from underneath you, and you just have to fly like an eagle to your death.
Not a lot you can do when a stink bomb is up there. I mean, you're like 100 feet in the
things,
air.
Man.
Stink bomb comes in. I think they're really underestimated. I think at this point, I mean, they provide a great purpose, and at least the tick of damage is you got to notice it. You have to take at least action whenever it's there. But we're already dropping in now. Of course, I think we're still going to see Kenneth and Parallax probably hit up that salty area. Looks like they're poised to go just there, but Karma and Hogman, we know that they went Racetrack or just to the outside of Racetrack last time. They almost look like they want to go to Valhalla, which could be a very questionable area, especially since they're all tied up. It looks like he might be a little bit too low. Looks like he's going to deviate over to Shifty or maybe even Greasy, but Shifty, not a bad drop either. I was talking about it. Shifty, you go there, you loot up, may find a team there. It's going to be pretty rare, at least at this point in the season. But rotating over towards Greasy, when you have all those players rotating from Valhalla, you're going to find quite a few players there. So still a very viable option, and I think Karma and Hogman could, in fact, come up, at least have a couple of frags. But we see that as Kenneth and Parallax is going to be in a fight without a weapon. And this player is bound and determined to use his pickaxe to take them out, as we have a pickaxe war happening here. Legion, this is craziness.
This is actually my dream come true. I daydream about pickaxe battles all day. And also, it's funny to me that Parallax can hit 500-meter shots, but this rando dude with a pickaxe, he's struggling with his hunting rifle to pop these shots off. And I think it's one of those things where the movements and the motions are so not fluid to what you're normally used to dealing with and engaging, that can actually throw you off. It's kind of like the age-old, why sometimes do these amateur teams come out of these brackets and start to kind of take on pro teams in different ways? Because pros aren't used to playing people that play so weird, right? I mean, I believe the phrasing is weird. You see that all the time. Why is this 25th seed coming in here and rotating this way on the map? But obviously, Kenneth Parallax manages to get away, and that's actually really lucky. The nightmare, folks, is getting a hunting rifle only when you're having to face off against a shotgun or somebody with a submachine at this point. So.
Facts.
They're lucky to be alive, and obviously 2 Tommy guns for Hogman, so that he's got breakfast, lunch, and dinner over there. He's feeling great.
And he has every right to be, and especially with the landings that they choose here for Shifty Shafts. I know this has been a very high-profile location that we've talked about in previous Friday Fortnite tournaments, especially as of Week 8, Week 9. It's kind of been a place where it's like if you're not going, it's almost surprising, right? And one thing that's nice about this location is that even now toward the kind of southeastern region of this location, it's another high-profile place in Valhalla. So, used to, it would be, okay, we're going to get the guys coming from Greasy. We can rotate up toward Tilted, maybe even make a cross-play in towards Salty Springs, all locations to your north or your east. Now you have a very high-profile location here for Season 5 in Valhalla, where it's like, hey, maybe we can play the gatekeeper role. Maybe Greasy and Valhalla combine, even with the guys who are trying to grab those chests in Snobby Shores. There's going to be quite a few guys that we can gatekeep here in this situation. And based off of where the zone is going to be at, which looks to be toward the northeastern side of Shifty Shafts, probably could play gatekeeper just outside of Tilted Towers. Karma and Hogman, they have a very, very high-profile chance of getting a lot of eliminations. They're going to have a lot of guys coming at them most likely, but I think this makes Shifty Shafts an even more dominant location, a more even prominent location, because the amount of players that are now going to start coming from the overall western side of the map.
Yeah, and we do see them. They're going to rotate over towards Tilted, which honestly is fine in general. The reason being is because there's a lot of players come from Valhalla, even Greasy, and they'll rotate over to Tilted eventually. But a lot of them like to use the rifts that are located just next to Valhalla, just below
Right.
Usually they spawn on the side of the mountain just there, and they usually fly into Tilted because it's usually within that circle or close to it. So not a bad choice going over here. Also a very familiar area too, and I think that's kind of they want that familiarity. But overall, they do see some builds happening. We'll get in a couple of engagements, and they got to be careful because Tilted, yeah, it may not be as crazy as it used to be, but it's still a very volatile place to go.
Yeah, I feel like Tilted, if you're still finding players actively in Tilted, these are like those weirdo elitist groups of players that don't want to believe that any new portion of the map is there, so they just want to go back and continuously dominate in Tilted. So at this point, I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I'm going to be terrified of any squad that I run into in this area. You know what I mean? It's like the people that pick on UMG wagers, right? They only pick like radar always on and like one map. It's like the same thing. It's like they're just going to continuously land in the Tilted area, no problem. So, this is one of those engagements I'm like, maybe just wrap around and try to kill all those people coming over from Valhalla, as Taylor likes to call it, or, of course, Snobby, where there's probably going to be a lot of teams. And also, you got to watch about, getting pinched from behind here. This is a really bad spot to be in if you're coL Hogman, to be honest with you.
And this is one thing that I was going to point out, which I'm really glad they didn't go toward the western side of Tilted Towers, maybe try to hit up people from Valhalla or Viking, because they can get sandwiched, right? If they start to hear some shots, people in Tilted Towers, well, hey, let's kind of focus our attention. We can now kind of play the gatekeeping role from the people who are entering in from Valhalla or Viking. So that's a very key situation here. Karma and Hogman want to make sure they're not rotating west whatsoever. They want to kind of keep themselves on this eastern portion of the map. If they have to, they can aggress it, but you're always going to be keeping in the back of their minds, always be watching that they're trying to make sure that they're not going to get pinched in from those two locations, because there's going to be some very high-profile players who survive Valhalla and survive through Tilted Towers. You could argue some of the best players in the world are going to be sandwiching them if they get too far west.
Or Landon, they got an ATK. And
Yeah,
that's true.
That is
golf
true.
That's very
carted
true.
out of the entire area. I just want to see one engagement today where somebody falls out of the sky, one of those ATKs, and I just want to see how these pro players, pro teams react to this type of environment. Because it's like, so far, I've seen so many amazing clips from pretty much every level of play involving these. And this is one of the things that as as somebody that's just been involved in communities like this for a long time, it's like why I love Fortnite so much is the game in its vanilla state and in its form is just genuinely fun. And what happens is when you have a formula like this, you see tournaments and this need and desire for tournaments to come out. You see all these high-profile streamers and content creators playing, and then you see Kenneth popping off with a thermal in the top left.
Is he shooting through a ramp? Like,
No, he was shooting, those players were literally not moving. They were just taking damage and just like, you know what? I'm standing my ground. I'm not moving. And that's exactly, what they did.
Little do they know they're getting shot at from a thermal scoped AR from 250 meters plus away from a pro player from 100 Thieves. That's rather.
He's just got the gold thermal.
He does.
He
does.
He was absolutely leaving a mark. That's for certain.
It's a whole snack.
And we see now we're gonna finally we're gonna see a little dusty fight happening as Parallax, great use of the C4 to bring down that Porta Fort as well as the other build that was on top of it. He's gonna get the full elim. Still, players are gonna be lurking around as he does have the high ground. These players seem a little bit lost, and Parallax is going to make him pay for that. He's going to get another knock and more players still remaining as we came into this game with all tied up. Now we're going to see 8 on the left, and on the right we have 4, so a total of 4 elimination lead for Kenneth and Parallax as they're starting to take off.
I was actually doing the quick little math to myself, just making sure that was indeed correct.
I didn't know what you were doing there. I was like, is something crazy happening?
I was
That's why
using
I
my
cut off
mind
my
calculator.
stick
Using his index
immediately.
finger like a wand. I was really confused. I thought he was putting a sorcerer's curse on all of us here today at UMG Studios. And
Anyone who goes Tilted Tower shall be cursed for the rest of the tournament.
Anyone who goes there.
Oh, there it is.
Oh boy,
There's the voice we were
It
waiting
was like
for.
a sling blade mix with a wizard, I think, is kind of the accidental voice that just came out of there. But obviously, we're going to see 9 eliminations out of Kenneth and Parallax, and it's 4 for coL Hogman, of course, going into this second game all tied up. So, of course, now they're going to be up by a whopping 5 kills, 5 eliminations going into this game, too. 23 total engagements left in here, but, I don't think it matters.
What is up with?
Parallax is Kenneth, man. You can stop hurting their feelings anytime you want with that. You know what I'm
Kenneth with this thermal is just finding players and he's just dinging them left and right, and they're just not moving. And as here he goes, trying to get this player just came out
Please.
of the rift. He did get 44
poor
shoved
guy,
off
dude.
of him, but I think they're going to be heading up this hill trying to get this this supply drop, but they will be taking shots off to the right, so they got to be a little bit wary of that. But I do think that is a team fight separate. But there it is. There's going to be a very bold soul. Ventura, 317, is pushing forward. And unfortunately, he's not going to get very far as Kenneth is going to finish off the last player of that team. Plus, they'll get all the loot and a supply drop that is going to be dropping, setting them up very nicely for the final few eliminations.
Wow. 2 big pots, a chug jug, and some minis. I struggle to find some bandages at some point in a lot of the games that I play. But these guys coming in with the full loot, of course, 12 total eliminations for them, man. This is looking pretty rough here for Karma and Hogman. Of course, still not out of it completely yet. There's still enough engagements for them to have a chance at coming back. But, man, I'm telling you, I love seeing these heavies in action. We're starting to see pretty much everybody vouching for those every time. Obviously, it just feels like the reverb there on the trigger is just going to be a lot better for you in gunfights and engagements. And, of course, you're pretty much seeing them use as a short-range little KSG-style, slug-style shotgun as well, which is a lot of fun for me to witness as it reminds me of the time in my life when I was decent on the sticks, Taylor.
Speaking of which, I know they just added motion control or motion sensor for the Switch. So I don't know. Hey, maybe a little challenge coming your way. Let's see
maybe
if
a little YouTube video in the
that's
making.
It, right?
You know what I'm saying? Just standing up. I'll be in like a full ninja headband outfit, also the underwear that he's selling now, and just pretty much that. I'll just be balling out, playing some Fortnite with the nunchuck and Wiimote. You know
I respect it.
Careful with your choice of words.
Speaking of which, you can also rock the EGL socks. EGL does sell socks, so you know what?
That's what I'm saying. And EGL socks. I mean, I'll be in the full gear now. No, isn't Ninja like merchandising? He's merchandising like literal like underwear now. So that's what I'm saying.
MeUndies.
He definitely is.
MeUndies. Okay, they sent me like a free pouch a long time ago. I'm wearing them right now. They're so comfortable. I'm just throwing it out there.
Right on. As we're going to see now, the game is going to be continue on here as Parallax trying to pick off that player. It's just straight ahead as. You know, he's still rocking an AR. It seems like everybody in their inventory still has an AR. I was kind of surprised. At least in the last tournament, we were talking about it. Maybe the AR could be potentially going away, but of course, still a viable option. But, you know, that Tommy gun is kind of like a mix in between both an AR as well as a submachine gun. You can suppress, but you can also take out as well. And but it's still refreshing to see an AR still viable option overall. Of course, I know that the SCAR is still an option a lot of players like is Parallax. Look at that with this AR taking really my words away. He's getting some kills just straight ahead of him from quite a distance away. Parallax, he'll be the aggressor as well, coming up just behind him. As they know, getting down to these final few engagements, there's a lot riding on the line. You just have to go for it. And C4 once again coming in the hands of Parallax. We saw him do this in the first round. There was a point where there was a 1-by-1. He threw 4 C4s. He got 3 knocks plus a final elim as the other player happened to survive. But C4 is still a very viable option, which I want to say they made a change to C4. They did. I believe it
has to land.
It has to land. You can't blow it up in the air, so
that's
you have
correct,
to wait.
which threw me for a loop last night because I was trying to do my normal just kind of panic throw and explode when somebody was pushing me. And unfortunately, it does have to land now. But, you know, that's probably good for evenness in general. I think a lot of the pro players, we were talking about their actual matchups against each other. And I believe you guys were mentioning that they were talking about how they needed to maybe kind of nerf it in a way. I feel like that's a pretty solid way to nerf it, of course. And as we've seen the double pumps being nerfed, obviously. And I feel like, you know, Epic does a really great job of listening to the community in terms of updates. So I think Season 5 is starting off to a pretty big bang so far. I'm just going to go home and pretend like I leveled up and buy about 15 to 20 more levels in my battle pass. And then I'll be set here. I think Kenneth and Parallax have kind of locked down this series, by the way. 19 total eliminations. Now they're ahead roughly 10, so that is going to be mathematically impossible for Karma and Hogman to make a comeback here. But honestly, an effort. Honestly, the only thing stopping Kenneth and Parallax at this point is if they get knocked early at the rate that they're playing. They're averaging roughly 20 eliminations a game so far for the tournament. I mean, 30 at one point last series. I'm scared for the next round of competition here.
Yeah, and that's one thing too is that like Hunter T are kind of almost kind of playing very similar to FaZe, right? I believe last week both FaZe players in Cloakzy and Tfue averaged 9.25 kills per game, and that's kind of what Hunter T is on track for right now. So you could argue a recipe for success essentially is what Hunter T is doing at the bottom side of the bracket. And like I said, man, this squad being put together, and Kenneth and Parallax, of course, they're playing with each other a lot of the time, much similar to FaZe. They're both pro players as well, which meaning that they're grinding out the game, especially together a lot. So this could be a matchup that we see in winners finals. Like I said, winners semis, etc. It's going to be a very interesting tournament, and as long as Kenneth and Parallax are alive, you've got to be worried for the excess competition.
Oh, 100%. Kenneth and Parallax obviously showing they're a top duo, and it's so important at this point as they're going to move on in our winners bracket. Of course, coRma, Hogman, great performance. They're going to move down to the losers. Still in the tournament overall. Loser bracket, of course. We reached that bottleneck where it just becomes stacked. And